Okay, thank you everyone who has joined our webinar today. Appreciate the patience in the technical difficulty that I've been having, so definitely appreciate. I'm not sure if anyone else other than Amy that might be from the office, if you're hearing this, if you can get Kristen, that would be nice. But if not, hopefully I can reach out to her and send her the PowerPoint personally and ask if she has any questions. Thank you and welcome to the Dealing with Difficult People and Conflicts Leadership webinar today. I'm Antoinette Darden Cintron, New York State PTA Leadership Development Coordinator. We did have a late start, but I'm going to try to make sure that we can get us on track and to move forward and still end on time. Okay, I'm ready.
Just tell me when you need me to go to the next one.
I'm ready for the next one.
All right. See if this works. Ah, okay.
Okay, great. So today's objectives is to understand what conflict is, build a skill set in resolving conflict, and learn positive ways of managing conflict with schools, staff, and families. I see it as skills that you can use anywhere, whether it's within your own families, at your school, at your job, at other volunteer organizations that you are part of. These are skills that can be done and used anywhere. Next slide. All right, so what is conflict? A conflict is when two or more people perceive that they have mutually incompatible goals, priorities, or values. So, you know, sometimes my values or my priority with my son is, you know, for him to come home, immediately jump into homework and get his work done before 10 o'clock. That is not always the case because his priority may be to have a bowl of cereal and take a nap before he gets started on these things. So that is small, but that is, in a sense, a bit of conflict. So it's just competing or incompatible goals and priorities with you with someone else. Next slide. Okay, so think of a time when you had a positive experience communicating with someone and what was working. And so literally I want you guys to think of something, a time that you communicated with someone. What made that communication a good communication? If you want, you guys can definitely go ahead and type in some examples, and I should be able to see it. Excuse me, I should be able to see it and get some feedback from you guys. So if you have anything in regards to some things going on, some good positive things that you saw when you were communicating. Good. You felt like they were listening to you. Now, Melissa, how did you know that they were listening to you? What were some of the signs?
They were looking directly at me. They were, you know, thinking about what I was saying. They weren't like in their head thinking about how to respond to what I was saying. And they just were actively engaging with me.
Great. Perfect. Those are some positive ways that you know that someone is communicating with you well. If you're talking to someone, and this is conflict or not, right now this is just general. You're having a conversation with someone, and I'm sorry, hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry, guys. That's my child cooking dinner. Anyway, so that's a sign of some positive communication skills. Someone that may be looking at you, someone who's nodding their head, giving you the signal that they get what you're saying, or they're at least, you know, understanding what you're saying. So the same thing for the other side. Oh, wait, I see Jackie said when they can ask you a question. Sure, again, you feel like that person has some interest in what you're trying to communicate with them. So that makes sense too. Now, on the opposite side, think of a time when you had a negative communicating experience with someone. What wasn't working there? What were some of the things that you can think about that that made it not a good experience? Again, please type in or pipe in any information that you want to share in regards to a negative experience communicating with someone. Body language. Yep, Jackie, what kind of body language you would say would make a negative communication experience?
Rolling the eyes, kind of dismissive, looking at you or not looking at you. Things that you can tell when people are really either not paying attention or really have a problem with what you're saying.
Exactly. That is so true. Melissa also added talking over the person, or they cut off your sentences. And those are really good things, not good they're good examples of some negative experiences when they didn't respond to my word but kept going to their own. Yes, I've had that where you could be having a conversation with someone and you're saying something and the person immediately jumps in and starts giving their side of their experience to something, and it makes you feel like, well, are we truly having a conversation where that person is hearing me, or is that person waiting to just express their thoughts, their feelings? So those are both good conversation that we're having, just showing positive experience communicating and negative. So when you are having communication with people, whether it's in conflict or not, you want to think about the things that make having a good experience in communication with someone versus having a bad experience, and you want to kind of veer away from the bad experience. Okay, next slide. All right, so communication roadblocks. So here are some of the things that, of course, can get in the way of communication. So again, if you have perceptions, you come in with perceptions about someone or a situation, like maybe you might have heard some prior chit chat about whatever conversation you're going to have with someone, and you come in with those thoughts already. You've already made your mind. So perceptions, stereotypes, gender differences, the words you choose, or how you choose to use them, or if you're holding back information, you have information that might make this conversation go well, or it might make it move in a certain way, but you're holding it back. Negative reactions within that conversation, diverting from the topic, or a lot of times people don't realize it. You're solving the wrong problem. You're there for one reason, but then someone starts throwing out other things and you get off track. Or you jump to conclusions about the person or the thing that you're talking about. So those are some communication roadblocks that you have to think about. Next slide, please. All right, so here are some ways to improve your communication skills. These are all important. Communication is so key to resolving conflicts and dealing with difficult people. I always tell people that I think that PTA really helped me grow my communication skills and how I handle all sorts of people. Everybody here knows individually, when we're in our own schools, sometimes there are difficult parents, right? And they come up to you and they may be screaming or yelling, really getting out of hand. And as a PTA leader, you really shouldn't be yelling back, right? But sometimes that can be really hard. The thing that I've always told myself, especially as region director, when there were people, units and council who had big time issues with parents or with each other, and when I was called in to go into office support, I always thought, whenever I go in or speak with someone, I always think, especially if it's about children, people are passionate about their children. And when you're passionate about your children, sometimes you don't always. You may not always communicate in an appropriate way, or whatever the issue is, hypersensitive because it's your child. And as a parent, I can understand that, and so that always allows me to be calm in the moment and in situation, and really just try to make sure that I hear that person and hear what their need is and what their concern is. So communication skills is critical to resolving conflict and dealing with difficult people. So ways to improve your communication skills: becoming more aware of your thinking and reasoning, making our thinking and reasoning more visible to others, inquiring into others' thinking and reasoning. So again, you need to be aware when you're dealing with difficult people, if you're trying to help someone resolve an issue, you need to be aware of your very own thinking and how you're reasoning when it comes to that, and making our thinking and reasoning more visible to others. So to me, is it important to release what's in your head, in your mind, how you're thinking about situation, or is it important to hear that other person or other person's perspective on a situation? You guys getting that part? Let's see. Let's see. I see some feedback here. That's a great point. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Next slide, Amy. All right. So here are some steps to resolving conflict. I'm missing someone. I see that there's a little bit of another message, but I think I just don't see it here. Okay. Steps to resolving conflict. So understand the conflict. Again, make sure you understand what the specific issue is. And sometimes that's just a matter of, well, could you tell me specifically what concern that you have? I don't like to use the word like issue, because sometimes I might say, well, what's your issue? And I think that could be offensive to people or too aggressive. So I tend to think of language which is more softer, which is more allows for a better communication opportunity. So you got to choose your words a little bit wisely, but get to the point and understand what the specific conflict is about for that person or that party or that group. Create a positive atmosphere. So let's say a parent approaches you, as a meeting just ends. People are talking, people are grabbing the last pieces of cake, people are laughing. Maybe that might not be the place, but maybe you need to step out of room and find another classroom to have the conversation, or go into another office, or, into a different space altogether. Create a positive environment. About a few weeks ago, I had taken a training called Therapeutic Crisis Intervention in Schools. So helping students in crisis, helping them get through whatever they're going through and the emotions that's involved. One of the key thing is when, let's say, a student has a bad experience, whether it's them, maybe they cursed out the teacher and something bad happened in class, we don't stop and really have that conversation in class. My thought would be to, and what you really should do is, you invite that student to come to your office or your classroom or another space when there's time to really be able to have that conversation. And a space really should be a space that's quiet. You can hear the student can hear you as well. So having a positive environment that's comfortable, preferably it's neat, it's not sloppy, it's quiet, where you can have a really good conversation. Develop a mutual understanding. To me, that mutual understanding is, hey, we're both trying to resolve or take care of this concern. We're trying to move forward. That's what our goal is together, the mutual understanding. The mutual understanding is that this conversation, we're going to figure out a solution and figure out how we both or how we all can move forward. And problem solve. That's the whole point to resolving the conflict. You're there to solve the problem that is at hand. And again, you don't want to spend your time in that conversation concentrating on several different issues. You want to see what is the core problem that you're trying to solve. Next slide. Okay. Can conflict be good? And I say yes, conflict can be good. There are some benefits to conflict. You get new knowledge. Maybe you never knew that someone thought differently about an event that you were having. or how that event should be or was executed. Different things like that. So you can gain all sorts of things. So new knowledge, innovative strategies. When you're sitting and you're working with a person or a group and you're trying to resolve an issue that's happening, you have the opportunity to figure out different strategies to resolve it. And so it may be things that you've never heard before. So that's also very a good thing about conflict. And then different perspectives. Sometimes it's not all about us. And I think as we get older, as adults, and I think I will say I can get into that too, we're so used to doing things a certain way, the way that works for us, that sometimes we lose sight that someone else might have a different viewpoint or different perspective that may be able to make a situation better, move more smoothly, enhance whatever's happening. So those are the good things about conflict. Next slide, please. Okay, here are some positives and negatives of conflicts again. So positives, you will have increased involvement, whether it's yourself, whether you as, you're a leader in your local unit or council, whether you're a leader in your school district, whether you're a leader in New York State PTA, when you resolve conflict, that does mean you are getting more involved. You're being more involved in resolving concerns or situations that need some attention. You have increased cohesion. So when you're resolving a conflict, you're working together with people and you're coming together. Personal growth and change, like I said, for me, my experience in PTA and being a leader, it really has helped me build skills that as a teenager, and even I will say this to a young adult, had a little bit of struggles with. It helped me grow and change and really try to communicate better and try to see different perspectives that people may have. You clarify the key issues that you have. Organizational vibrancy, especially you're in an organization, whether that's your unit organization or you're up in Albany with New York State PTA, it really, when you have the ability to positively resolve conflicts, have positive conflict experience, it kind of builds up your organization. It builds up into a positive way that when things happen, we can come together and we can resolve things. And then again, there are some individual and group identities are built off of positive conflicts. And then, of course, your negative, unresolved anger. People will harbor bad feelings. How many people have experienced where you might have had a negative reaction or interaction with someone, and it's 5 years later, and that person is still holding on to that? So unresolved anger can really be an issue, for people, because it can be harbored and it can fester, and it really can deteriorate relationships. Personality clashes, that's said here. You have somebody that's really quiet, someone that's more boisterous and aggressive. Maybe that's not clashing, and that's not mixing very well, and it's clashing. Again, just like you can have organizational vibrancy, you can build some organizational negativity where that organization, again, school, your home, wherever it is, that the climate is so negative that you really can't move forward on many things, and it makes the environment not one that is friendly, not one that is open to learning and to working and collaborating. And again, just like it builds cohesion, it also creates disruption in cohesion. Whether it's in groups, it creates, I think, negative clicks. I don't have a problem with clicks at all as long as they're positive ones, but it can create negative clicks in an organization or in a group. So those are some of the negative and positive things. Go ahead, Amy. You can move forward. All right. Now, I hope no one is laughing, but it took me some time to build this diagram. This is the best that I could do, so I do see some of the spaces not even, but I did this from scratch. So, communicating to others, this is one important thing that if you've gone through conflict resolution training, they always talk about I statements. So this is what this chart is about. I statements, I think, it takes the onus in a certain way off of that person. It takes away the accusatory feeling that you can give to a person if you're not using I. So you're not saying, well, you did this, or you know what I'm saying, you did this, or why did that happen, or what were you doing? That itself is accusatory. It puts people on the defensive and they won't listen to you. But if you can say I statements, it then talks about what your perception is or what your perspective is, and it leaves people a little bit more open to hear from you, because you're not really, it doesn't sound like you're blaming that person, but you're just saying, hey, from my perspective, this is kind of what I got, kind of how it's feeling. So, and you can use your I statements in the following way. So I think. So all you're saying, hey, this is what my mind is thinking. Maybe I might be wrong, but I think da 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 da. I feel, again, it's not, you're not putting, you're not taking away that person's feelings, what they may feel about the situation, but you're just letting them know, like, hey, this is how I feel. It shows respect to at least in my mind, it shows respect to, you're not taking anything away from them, but you are expressing how you feel to them. I want. So what do you want to do about it? So how are you bringing to the table a resolution to it? I do. So again, now you're going to be talking about what you're willing to do to resolve the situation. And then you have I observe. So again, you were telling him, when this happened, I heard. When this happened, I saw. When this happened, I did. So again, you're just laying it sort of out, what your perspective, what your vision was about whatever conflict that's happening. But I statements are really important because it takes the defensive off the person or the groups that you're talking to. Everybody's good with that so far? Okay. I just wanted to check, and I see, yes, I see a yes from Margaret. I see Melissa had put earlier, I avoid conflict. I didn't think that there might be a positive side. Very thought-provoking. Yes. Yes, there is some positive. You learn a lot from some conflicts. Okay, Amy, I'm ready for the next one. Okay, so we've talked about a lot about communicating, because in conflict, that's what's really the key thing. You have to be able to communicate, and there's different ways. So there is active listening, and you're listening to understand. So before you start saying, hey, we're going to resolve this issue, you have to be able to understand, the actions that it will take to move forward. So you also need to be able to have the skills to help someone, say, like, so whether you're in the midst of the conflict or whether you're helping someone through their very own conflict with someone else. Again, I'm still having us in the PTA mind where as leaders in PTA, in our units, councils, wherever, that we might be asked to help support in an issue. And I think many of us serving in the different roles that we have, whether present or past, sometimes our expertise is drawn on. And you have to be able to help people. You have to be able to help someone say exactly what they want to say. You have to be able to do that. On the road to conflict resolution, listening is the super highway. So listening is the most important thing. And listening, not with trying to think of how you respond to that person, but truly listening to that person, and really trying to glean everything you can from what they are saying. Be present, attend and acknowledge, be responsive, ask questions. Ask clarifying questions if you don't understand exactly what they're saying. Even if you kind of get what they're saying, I think it's still important to ask questions to show the person that you are listening, that is important to you, that you get exactly what they are trying to say or they are trying to convey. It really shows them that, one, the issue is important, two, you really want to get a good understanding of the issue that is at hand as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, some attributes of effective communication to resolve conflict. You have to really be, and I think this is really hard for some people, because sometimes when we are talking about issues, whether we're involved in them or you know someone that's involved in them, or you may think you know the issue, I think sometimes it's a bit hard not to be person-oriented, but you really have to, it really should be about what the problem is. Don't make it about the people, and I think that's what people make mistakes when they are involved in their own conflict resolution with someone or helping others. They make it about people and their personalities and the time you've known someone or what you think about someone. It is about the problem. If you make it about the problem, you're on the right road to resolving a conflict. Be descriptive. So when I'm listening to someone, I'm not in my head, oh, she said that the prices at the bake sale was too much. I wonder why she said it. Did she say it because she, didn't have the money to get it herself? That's me trying to analyze and evaluate what she said. That's not it. I just need to know what she talked about. So all I should be hearing is she felt the prices were high. I don't need to go into why she felt it was high. What does this mean? Could it have been this? Could it be that? Then I'm not really listening. I'm trying to evaluate the statement that she said. Evaluate the statement that she said. I just want to be descriptive so I can get an understanding of it. Be very specific. Again, it's like it's tied to the problem oriented. It's not the person, it's the problem itself. So again, it's getting more detailed, being very specific, not general, validating, not demeaning. And I think in almost every issue you can kind of validate someone's perspective, whether it's, you know what, I can see why you may have thought that when Cheryl said no, you couldn't wear that t-shirt, that she didn't want you to be a part of the event we were having. But actually, she may not have meant that. She may have said that was the wrong t-shirt. So maybe she expressed it the wrong way. But it's really validating someone's concern or the issue that they may have, but not demeaning them. When you demean somebody, the conversation shuts down. And again, it's you're owning sort of the issue with that person, meaning you're owning wanting to resolve it. You're not trying to disown that person out of the issue, out of the organization, out of whatever's happening. You're taking ownership of the conflict as well, because you're trying to help resolve it, or you're trying to be a part of the resolution. And again, this is the easy part. Effective communication is two-way. You can't, if no one's talking, if no one's open to having a conversation, how are you even going to have the ability to communicate? Right? Next slide. Be responsive, ask questions. So here are a few examples of some of the things you can say. So again, if you need to gain more information, what led you to that conclusion? Why did you think, when Sally left, that she was angry? What made you think that? What did you see? Show respect. Is there anything else you think I should know that would help me understand your position? So showing respect is you're saying, hey, I'm hearing you. What you're saying is important to me. I want to help you through this. Introduce information. And again, this is a part of the resolution. So you've heard what's happening, and now you might offer what you see at the time. What you saw in it. You know what? Do you think when we did this, this may have happened? Next slide. All right. Be responsive. Provide feedback. It's a way to reflect on what the conversation you were having, what that person was saying to you. That's really important. Again, this is a way of saying, I heard you. You're validating what they said to you and the importance of what they've said. And reframing. So again, we want to try to take some of the negative things that might be said. So we have a great example here. The speaker says he's a two-faced liar. As a listener, you would try to glean what they're really trying to say. Honesty is important to that person. Honesty is important in having good relationships. So you're not saying, hey, I agree with you. He is a two-faced liar. You're just validating that person's feelings, as in, obviously, that person, honesty is a big value to them. And again, you want to summarize. So you want to make sure that you heard correctly. You always come back. So are you saying whatever they were saying? So to make sure you're getting that story right. Next slide. All right, so here's the key steps to resolving some conflict. Again, like we said earlier on, one, you really do have to understand the conflict. So again, you want to get to what was the cause of the conflict. You want to be able to analyze that situation. What specifically happened, what caused it. You want to identify the appropriate conflict resolution style, how you should take it on. There's so many different things, but you want to figure out what's the right thing in that situation. You want to create a positive atmosphere. Again, you want to make it a neutralized situation where that person doesn't feel like, especially like if it's a parent, the person doesn't feel like, the PTA president is pulling them in somewhere and telling them off or saying, I didn't like what happened. No, you want to really neutralize the situation and make sure that that person knows that you're just trying to help whatever situation or whatever occurred, and you're trying to be a listener, and you're trying to help work through resolving a concern. And you want to develop a mutual understanding. Again, just using the communication skills of listening, of rephrasing what was said, just showing all the tools that we've been talking about of how you are able to understand the situation that's happening. Next slide. Oh, wow, we are going pretty quickly. Okay, some key points to remember. If you are the person, whether it is your conflict with another person or a group, or whether you're trying to help someone to resolve that conflict that that may be occurring, you want to be the model of calm and cool. I think as PTA people, as PTA leaders, as moms, dads, co-workers, bosses, all sorts of ways of life. When you're trying to resolve a conflict, if you are heated, if you are upset, if this is a fiery topic for you, maybe you got to figure out when you should try to resolve the conflict, because going in hot, it won't end well. And people can feel when you're upset about something. Sometimes it's easier to take a moment to say, you know what, maybe today is not the time. And that's okay. And know that too, sometimes, and it has happened to me where I've had to say, you know what, now is not the time to have this conversation. Do you mind if could I get back to you in about an hour or so, or could we meet up tomorrow and talk about it? And that person can be actually pretty pushy. No, I want to resolve it now. No, I want to do this. Don't get forced into a conversation where you may not be able to keep calm, because all it will do is exacerbate the situation. Don't give in to emotional outbursts. You may say something or do something that you regret later. So really, again, it's just about being even-keeled, not overly, emotional. Don't assume people are being difficult intentionally. I think that some people may not know that they're difficult. They're being difficult. Some people may not know they're difficult people in general. So don't assume that people know the vibe that they're giving off, or the attitude or the action might be a bit offensive, or might not allow for a productive conversation. They may not know that. Find a quiet place, of course, like we've been saying, to resolve conflicts privately. Set some ground, a private space. Set some ground rules for the discussion. And I think this is truly, truly, really key. I say it a lot because at work, this is what I do all day. I'm a dean of climate and culture in my school, so it is resolving conflict with young people all day, every day, from the time I walk in the door to the time I leave. And when I bring young people together, these are some things that are really important, and I think it can be transferable to any age that you're working with. To have some ground rules so people know, and people may still come in hot, so you want to make it easy, or people may hear things that may make them uncomfortable, that make them upset. But the point of ground rules is to make sure that the environment is positive, is neutral, and there will be a level of respect in discussing the issue or the concern. So no raising voices. Sometimes that is hard, but it's always no raising voices. Make sure that people know this is not a debate. We're trying to hear each other out. We're trying to develop a resolution together. Speak only for yourself. So again, I phrases, not you. You said this. You did this. You can only speak to how you felt, how you felt, and what you did as a person. Confront the issues, not the people. Again, when you speak and you start moving it into about the people, it will be so emotional. You'll never get progress. So it's about what is the direct concern, the issue, and that's what you are focusing on. And maintain or enhance self-esteem. I like that part because I think working with young people is really important for them to see that they can work through something without using their hands, without using foul language, without being angry. And as you guys know, school can be a bit crazy. PTA meetings have gotten crazy. And if you go to board meetings, school board meetings, they can be quite crazy too. So it's good to maintain a conversation where people's dignity can stay intact. And so that goes along with making sure that the conversation is really respectful. Oh, I see there's a message here. Let's see. I agree. Great. Next slide. All right. So conflict resolution all around us. Conflict resolution is an opportunity to learn and bring others along in learning how to be a contributor in this world. These skills learned here can be used in all aspects of your life. So in your own family, in your PTAs, at work, at schools. I find that if you know, let me give you some examples. So let's say it's at your child's school, or a school that you are an active leader in the PTA, and I say that because I know there are plenty of parents and folks whose kids may have moved on, but they still needed a PTA president, and you decided to support even though you didn't have a child school. We know that administrators, and I would say teachers too, do have a lot of pressure on them and difficulty, but at the same time they are educating our own children. And so we have concerns, and things come up that are not always easy to talk about, and maybe that people might feel uncomfortable with doing that with teachers and administrators, especially if they may not be the friendliest people, or maybe may not be the most available people. I say you have to ask yourself, in regards to the conversation, if you experienced something with that teacher, that principal, or a central office administrator? Have you experienced, or even whether it's you personally or if you've seen that person may not be able to handle conversations really well? I think one way, to me, that helps handle that, I like email. Send an email. I read it. I never hit send each and every time. If I know I might have to send a difficult email, I may ask someone else to come in and say, if you read this, what would you think? If that person gives me, that means I might have gone too much to the left, and I might need to pull back. I make sure that whatever my email is specifically on the issue. It's not about what the person, what I perceive the person did or not, but it's about the specifics. And then also I try to make it inquiry based. So I like to ask questions. I don't like to assume that an action happened. So I like to say, hey, this happened. Could you tell me what was your thought? Or my thought in this situation was whatever that is. Could you share what you think about it? Something like that. But you can do that in email, but you can do that in conversation too, as well. So those are some of the things when I can think of when you're dealing with difficult people in schools. Again, if it's parents, I always think if it's about their children, or they're just passionate about children in general, you kind of have to give people a little, not a leeway to be rude and disrespectful, but a leeway in your understanding of trying to be understanding to that person. Let me see. Jackie says, I think that I statements are a must to keep the conflict resolvable, because now you are validating the person's message, and it can keep them off guard a bit. And that's really true, because I think a lot of people do expect, if you're having some sort of conflict, they expect you to hurry up and give your side of it. They don't expect you to try to understand their perspective. So that can be a way to throw people off, for sure. These things, this webinar, really at the heart of conflict resolution, it really is all about your communication style. And I think really the style that is most important is that you are being a listener. You're being a listener is probably number one. Taking away the personal. It's not about you. It's not about that person. It's about the issue specifically, and it's about a commitment to finding a resolution with someone else, or a group, figuring out how can we best sort of resolve it. Those are the things that I think that are critical, no matter what group, no matter who you're talking to or dealing with. It really is the way that I that I kind of resolve conflict in almost every aspect of my life. Try to make it not about the personal. Try to hear the person. Try to see if I can find some sense of understanding. I think that goes a long way. Jackie spoke to that. Um, a thought just kind of flew out my head, but those are the things that are really critical in resolving conflict. Like I said, it happens in life. Conflict, I don't think, will ever be out of our lives as people, but it really matters just how, we resolve it, and what do we want to get out of it, and how do we want to help that person that we're in conflict with, or or if you're helping, a group who is having, how do you want to do that too? The other thing, and this is a crazy thing, but I would say I always think about when I have conversations with anyone, whether it's with my superintendent, with a teacher, my son's principal, the principal that is my supervisor at my job, wherever. I always try to think, if I was being recorded, what would I want people to hear? How would I want them to hear me behaving? And that's like my little guideline of thinking about how I am interacting with others. Jean said, how do you deal with people who always see the downside or problem in any suggestion or new idea? That, that is the challenge. Sometimes, Jane, I think something happened. There's someone that I work with that she's not budging on most things. On most things. So every time we try to offer a solution to make things better or to resolve something, she's very, it feels like she doesn't want to actually resolve it, because nothing seems to satisfy that person. But for me, how I resolve it, again, I keep pulling it back, because I think when that person wants to say no, no, no to everything, to me, she is stuck inside of it being about her. And that's what I think people like that do. They don't want to see none of your ideas, because it goes back to, it's about them. And so some of the things I think you can do is, again, just trying to bring the conversation back around to what the specific issue is. And I think asking that person as well, what can they do? Hey, you know what? I understand you didn't, my idea might not have been the idea you thought was right, but hey, can you share something? What do you think? Or do they have an area of expertise? Do they have an experience that that might help? Try to pull out from them their thoughts about how to resolve something. Okay, let's see what else. I hope that helped, Jean, what you asked. Margaret, you always did a good job as RD, keeping people engaged and moving forward so that things got done. I hope more people will have a chance to hear this presentation. Oh, thank you, Margaret. I really loved, I didn't think I would like, Jane, don't laugh, but when it first was presented to me as becoming an RD, I was so scared. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this well. I was really scared and just didn't have the confidence in myself. But like I said, I learned so much as an RD. I think it made me a better PTA person. We had some very feisty units, and I spent more time than I ever thought visiting other units and going in and helping them resolve the issues that they were having. And it was quite interesting, because helping others resolve their issues and come together sort of helped me learn to be better at resolving my own personal issues or, concerns with people. And so it was a great experience. Any other questions or concerns, or are there any sort of specifics that someone may have?
Just a comment before you
Yes.
put that online. Get rid of that PTA sign. It's got the
Oh, well, let me
periods in
see
it.
it. Oh, let me see. Oh, I didn't even
It's easy to
oh,
miss. I was
Got the
oh
thinking
my
dot.
God,
about
I
this
didn't even
because it was
notice
a
it.
conflict, but I'm like, okay, maybe that's not the best way to put up there.
All right. Amy, do you mind, because I know you want to put it up pretty quickly, do you mind finding an image to swap that out with?
I'll see what I can do. Or I put it up.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So it's the dot one that's coming out.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, saw that. I'm like, oopsie.
Yeah. This was towards the end, and Amy knows I was at the, is it the, what is it, the ninth hour, the 12th hour?
11th.
Tr- the 11th hour. Yes, I was at the 11th hour trying to put the final touches. So that was
It's like,
like, all I saw was PTA, clicked on it and pasted it right in. One suggestion I had, especially for people who have special needs kids, is if you're having a meeting and have issues, write an email letting them know what your concerns are. No one likes to be, oh, that's a great one. Melissa, thank you. That is a really great one. I also have learned that being on a school board, putting my questions in ahead of time, sending it to the school board president so that he can, and CC, well, sending it to my super, no, I send it to him, CC to the superintendent, so that she can see it ahead of time, so that when we come to our work session or come to our meeting, she is able to get the answers and doesn't feel on the spot. So that is such a good example, Melissa, and that can be used in so many different situations, specifically, at work or in schools, interacting with the people who are taking care of your child, letting them know in advance questions so that they can do their research and get the information to you. What is wrong with the PTA? Jackie, you got that one. What's wrong with the PTA and the dots in there?
There are no periods in PTA. It's a trademarked name,
Yeah,
signature, I guess. So no, you
yeah,
never use PTA periods, right?
yeah. Margaret, you got that? Oh, yes, she got it. Okay. Are there any things that maybe I didn't touch that someone might have a question or? Oh, okay, I don't see any chats coming up, and I don't hear anything. I think I did a great job of not making us go a whole lot longer than we needed to. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got you see some good information and some good tips about um, resolving conflict. Remember, it is a good thing. It can be positive. And if you walk away saying, what can I learn from this, then you're doing a good job. And also know, too, is sometimes it won't work out, especially if you're first trying to implement the skills needed to resolve a conflict. Sometimes it won't work out, but take a look at what you think went well, what went wrong, and figure out why it went wrong so that you can learn for the next time. And sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, Jackie, I didn't handle that well, and that wasn't my intention. I truly apologize. Didn't understand the issue as much as I thought I did, or if we could just get a moment, maybe you can shoot an email, put it in writing so I can understand it. Maybe I can come back to you, something like that. Thanks. I will be using the info for a future region workshop. Okay. All right, guys. Amy, thank you so much for being a super, super supportive person during this webinar. Thank you for
Welcome.
being a good technology guide. I appreciate it. And I thank everybody for their, time. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys have a good night. Amy, the only one thing I would ask you, if you don't do it, that's fine. But if you could forward to me, Kristen, because she did get off of the webinar, so maybe I can forward her the presentation
All right.
and maybe, give her an opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know if she RSVP'd or not. I have to check the list.
Okay. All right.
All right, I'm
Well,
gonna stop
thank you,
recording.
Thanks,
everybody.
Antoinette.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.